Hey, welcome back everybody. Today I want to talk about TONU or TONU. T-O-N-U. What is it? Do you even qualify for it? Are you getting it if you deserve it? And how much should you be getting if you do qualify for it and deserve it? So TONU stands for truck ordered not used. We've all had it happen. Your dispatcher sends you for a load, they send you to a shipper, and you get there and they say that load canceled. Or you spend all day waiting on a load and they say, oh, we don't have that load, we're canceling it. Truck order not used is for when a load gets canceled on you by either a broker or a shipper. Now, each broker or shipper has different standards that they go by to determine if you qualify for a truck order not used. It may be the load has to cancel within 4 hours of pickup, 8 hours of pickup, the day of. Everybody has their own standard. So you got to read your contract. A TONU will be in your contract that you have with the broker or shipper. We all think we deserve more, but we kind of got to go by what the contract says. So typically the TONUs I see are between like 125 to, I've gotten as much as high as like 300. Okay, now if you're leased onto a carrier, you've probably never heard of TONU before. Should you be getting this? If you're on a percentage-based contract, when this happens to you, they probably never tell you about it. But I can almost promise you that they're collecting it. So if you're on like an 80% contract, you should be getting 80% of whatever they collect for a TONU. Okay? It is reasonable for them to keep the 20% because it's their trailer. There's also expenses related to the trailer. I pass along 100% of TONUs when we get them because I figure, hey, the driver spent all that money, probably deadheaded quite a ways for spending all that money in fuel, and they probably deserve it. Probably put a good amount of time, probably a half a day or so, into trying to pick up that load. And plus the aggravation that went along with it. Now TONUs can be notoriously hard to collect. People don't like to pay them, especially brokers. The less reputable brokers, they don't like to pay this money. Even though it's in the contract, they'll come up with all kinds of excuses like, oh, well, they didn't technically cancel the load, they just rescheduled it to pick up 3 days from now, and you're choosing not to stay on the load, so we're not going to give you a TONU. Well, that's a bunch of bull, and you can't realistically be expected to sit and wait for a load for 3 days to pick up. So you kind of got to be a bulldog in trying to collect TONU. And if you're a small carrier, owner-operator, you probably already know about this. But hey, if you're leased onto a big carrier, maybe when this happens to you, you got to start asking, hey, where's my TONU? Where's my truck order not used? And what's the rate for that? Because chances are they're getting it. They're collecting that money. And probably some of it's supposed to be passed along to you. If you're on a straight mileage contract, they probably don't owe you this money unless you have something in your contract to address accessorials like detention, TONU, things like that. The typical TONU I receive, probably the average is $200 to $250. And that's pretty reasonable. That's a reasonable amount to ask for. Now when this happens to you, when somebody cancels a load on you, chances are you're going to be pretty upset and you're going to think, I want $400 or $500. You're only going to get what the contract says, okay? Unless there's some special circumstances. Maybe you already waited 24 hours for that load trying to get loaded at the shipper, then they cancel it. Well, then you want some layover pay and maybe some detention pay to go along with it. You need to be compensated for your time, and they need to pay. They shouldn't be trying to waste the time of truck drivers. Your equipment is very expensive, fuel is very expensive, and I'm aggressive about pursuing this. I don't let it go until they either pay me or they stop taking my phone calls. Now, when I have the option to put this in a contract for myself or negotiate it on my own if it's not specifically laid out in a contract, I want it paid upon cancellation for same-day pickup. That means if I'm scheduled to pick up the load anytime that day and they cancel it, I want to receive a TONU. But typically, you're going to see like 4 to 8 hours is where they're going to typically offer to pay a TONU. Now, that may or may not make you happy, may or may not justify the work you already did, but that's what you can reasonably expect to get paid. Now, in today's freight climate, honestly, I've seen a lot more of this happen. Lately, having a lot of cancellations happen. Whether or not the loads are really canceling or just finding somebody else to pull the load cheaper, that's another case. The broker can lie to you and say the load canceled, but really what they're doing is shopping it out to another carrier to haul it cheaper. So be aggressive. Say, well, you're canceling this load on me. I want my TONU. And try to get them to make them pay it. That will discourage them in the future from reshopping loads. But if the pickup is a day away or 2 days away, you cannot reasonably expect to get paid a TONU. Now you will still need to invoice the broker for this. Even though you don't have a bill of lading, you will need to make up an invoice, and instead of the freight charge we put on there, we just put truck ordered not used, whatever dollar amount you selected, and invoice it out along with the rate confirmation and just the invoice. There will be no bill of lading to send in, and sometimes that can confuse the issue. You may have to follow up after a week and say, hey, am I scheduled to be paid on this load? And they may say, we don't have a bill of lading. You have to explain to them that there is none, because it may be a place they don't deal with this kind of thing a lot. So be persistent, be aggressive, and go get the money that's owed to you. And if you're leased onto a carrier and you're on a percentage base or you have an accessorial agreement, make sure you're asking about this and get what you deserve. Because if they're pulling direct customer freight, this is in their contract. They are getting TONUs. If it's a broker load, it can be a little more tricky. But still follow up and ask. If you haven't received it after 30 days, follow up on it some more. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. So I hope that helps explain what a TONU is. Now go get your money and go get paid.